Good morning and welcome to the January 22nd, 2018 edition of the Bible Delight in the Details. I'm J. Lenora Bressler. And today we're going to look at Colossians chapter 3, verses 23 to 24. For whatever you do, work as to the Lord, not for human masters, but for the Lord, who gives you an inheritance as a reward. It is the Lord Jesus Christ whom you serve. You know, one person who really changed the way we think about Christianity in a lot of ways, of course, was the great reformer Martin Luther. And one of the things that I particularly like about Martin Luther is that he was very adamant about people understanding that there's really not a big difference between those things that are sacred and those things that are not. That actually perspective makes everything sacred. You see, up until that time, up until him doing a lot of his preaching and teaching, most people thought that if you were engaged in the ministry full time, if you were a priest, for example, you by necessity were more holy and your time was more sacred and your value was greater and you were closer to God, obviously, because of your position, because of your vocation, literally your work. But he said, no, if you are a ditch digger or a farmer or a teacher or whatever the way you make your money is, if you work through that for God, if you look for opportunities to be a good ambassador for Him, if you give 110%, whether your boss appreciates you or not, whether you're treated fairly or not, but because you know that the work has been ordained by God as something that is substantive and meaningful for the human experience. It is not a curse. The drudgery of work and the unfairness that sometimes comes along with working for other people, that is part of the curse that Adam got us into when he and Eve fell. But work was original in the garden, but work was pleasant and enjoyable and always fulfilling. It can still be that way when you realize that you and I are placed in jobs, in careers, for several reasons. One, of course, is to make it possible for us to live in this world, make money for our families, put food on our table. But it's more than that. It's also for our talents and abilities to be used and utilized, and so that we feel like we're actually doing something that's meaningful. People that are unhappy, it almost always, they're unhappy with their jobs. Have you ever noticed that? If you have someone who's very, very depressed, there's usually something going on in their professional life that makes them feel like they're not accomplishing all they could or should. They're not, their talents are not being optimized. Something about that. But more important even than all of those things, and those are valuable, meaningful aspects of work, is God uses us. He places us in workplaces so that we can be His ambassadors, reaching people that perhaps a professional, so to speak, a preacher or a full-time evangelist, a priest, could never get to. The people may blow them off or never darken the door of a church. And yet here we are, hopefully a living Bible lesson. And so, my friends, cherish your work, even when you're not as happy with it for other reasons. And remember, you are being placed in various work locations. And if you're a consultant, then that means your clients. You've been given these opportunities to not only help yourself, but also to help the cause of Christ. And that is a wonderful door of opportunity through which we should all walk happily and confidently. I'm J. Lenora Bressler. Visit me on the next edition of the Bible, Delight in the Details. Have a great day.